The movie begins in an underground elevator filled with crates and supplies. A young boy wakes up with no memory of who he is or how he got there. As the elevator rises, he hears a strange noise coming from one of the crates. Curious, he walks over to investigate. When the elevator finally reaches the top, the doors open to reveal dozens of boys staring at him. One of them jumps into the elevator, calls him a greenie, and pulls him outside. Terrified, the boy tries to run away, only to discover that he is trapped inside a small area surrounded by enormous walls with no visible way out. The other boys throw him into a cage, where their leader, Albie, questions him. Nervous, the boy admits that he can't remember anything. Albie calmly explains that this is normal because no one there remembers their past except for their own name. After the boy promises not to run away again, Albie lets him out of the cage and gives him a tour of the glade. The group survives by hunting, farming, building shelters, and doing whatever work is necessary. Everything else they need arrives through the elevator they call the box. Once every month, the box delivers new supplies along with another teenage boy suffering from complete memory loss, whom they refer to as a greenie. No one knows who keeps sending these supplies or why they are trapped there. During the tour, the new boy notices a strange doorway built into one of the giant walls. Albie explains the glade's 3 simple rules: always do your job, never hurt another glader, and never enter that door. As Chuck continues showing him around, the new boy can't stop staring at it. Just then, 2 boys emerge from the doorway, leaving him confused since he thought no one was allowed inside. Chuck explains that those boys are runners, the only people permitted to enter the massive maze beyond the walls. The greenie walks closer to get a better look, but Gally suddenly shoves him to the ground and reminds him about the rules. Even more confused, the boy demands answers, but before anyone can explain, the maze begins to shift. Massive stone walls grind across the ground before the entrance slams shut. That night, the boys celebrate the arrival of the newcomer. Newt tells him that the runners enter the maze every morning to map its constantly changing pathways. They've spent 3 years searching for an exit without finding one. Suddenly, a terrifying sound echoes from deep inside the maze. Newt explains that the maze changes every night, and if the runners fail to return before the doors close, they are forced to spend the night inside. No one has ever survived because deadly creatures known as grievers hunt and kill anyone trapped within. The greenie says he wants to become a runner someday, but Newt tells him that runners are carefully selected. Later, the new boy accidentally bumps into Gally and another glader, leading to a fight. Gally asks if he wants to settle things, and the other boys form a circle around them. The rule is simple: whoever knocks the other person out of the circle first wins. The fight begins, and Gally easily overpowers the newcomer while mocking him. However, the new boy suddenly grabs Gally and throws him to the ground, shocking everyone. Gally immediately retaliates by knocking him backward, causing the boy to slam his head against the ground. The impact triggers his first memory, and he suddenly remembers his name, Thomas. That night, Thomas dreams about running through a mysterious laboratory while hearing a woman's voice saying, "Wicked is good." The next morning, Albie takes Thomas to a wall where every glader has written his name. Thomas adds his own and notices that several names have been crossed out, marking those who have died. While collecting fertilizer in the woods, Thomas discovers a grave surrounded by scattered bones. Moments later, Ben appears, looking sick and acting like a wild animal. Ben suddenly attacks Thomas, shouting strange things like, "I've seen you! You did this! This is all your fault!" He tries to strangle Thomas, who grabs a nearby skull and smashes it into Ben's head before running away. A desperate chase follows until Thomas screams for help just before Ben pushes him down a hill. The boys rush back to the glade. As Ben prepares to kill Thomas, Newt knocks him down, and everyone works together to restrain him. They discover a horrifying wound on Ben's stomach. Although Ben begs for mercy, the gladers ultimately throw him into the pit. Albie explains that Ben is going through something called the changing, which happens after someone is stung inside the maze. This is the first time it has happened during the day, and they know the infection will eventually drive him insane. Before the maze doors close, they force Ben inside while he cries and pleads for help. That night, his name is crossed off the memorial wall. Thomas dreams once again about the mysterious laboratory and the strange woman helping him with an experiment. The following morning, he notices Albie entering the maze even though he isn't a runner. Newt explains that Albie went to investigate Ben's tracks and figure out how he was stung. He also reveals that Albie was the very first boy to arrive in the glade and lived there completely alone for an entire month before the box brought anyone else. As the day passes, everyone grows worried because Albie and the runners still haven't returned. Time is running out. Just before the maze doors close, Miho appears carrying an injured Albie. Saving someone after the doors begin closing is against the rules, but Thomas refuses to stand by. Without hesitation, he sprints into the maze just before the entrance seals shut behind him. Inside the maze, Thomas finds Albie badly wounded after being stung. Miho had knocked him unconscious to keep him under control. Moments later, the terrifying sounds of the grievers echo through the maze. Thomas wants to protect Albie, but Miho insists there's nowhere they can hide. Thomas notices thick vines covering one of the stone walls and quickly comes up with a plan. With Miho's help, they tie Albie to a rope and lift him into the air, hiding him among the vines. Before they finish, a griever appears, forcing Miho to run while Thomas makes sure the rope is secure and hides behind the vegetation. The griever passes by without noticing Thomas, giving him his first close look at the creature. He realizes that the monster is made of twisted mechanical parts rather than flesh. After it moves away, Thomas quietly climbs out to secure the rope to a nearby branch, but he is forced to hide once again when the griever suddenly returns. He waits silently for the creature to leave before continuing his search for a way to survive the night. Suddenly, a sticky substance lands on Thomas's shoulder. He looks up and sees a griever crawling along the wall. The creature drops to the ground and immediately chases after him. Thomas runs as fast as he can until he reaches a dead end. Desperate to survive, he climbs a wall covered in ivy and reaches the top, hoping to escape through an upper passage. However, he quickly realizes he's trapped with nowhere left to go. With no other choice, Thomas makes a huge leap and grabs onto the ivy. The griever follows him, landing directly above him. It extends a mechanical arm fitted with a long stinger and tries to inject him. Thomas struggles to hold on, but the griever's weight tears the ivy apart, sending both of them crashing to the ground. The monster's limbs become tangled in the vines, giving Thomas the chance to escape. As he runs, he bumps into Miho. At that moment, the maze begins to shift, and Miho races into another section, hoping to lure the griever away after it frees itself from the vines. As the walls start moving, Thomas waits for the griever to get close before sprinting between the closing walls, baiting the creature into following him. The next morning, the gladers are stunned to see Thomas and Miho emerge from the maze with Albie still alive. They soon discover that Thomas's plan actually succeeded in killing a griever. The group gathers to discuss what happened. Gally insists that Thomas should be punished for breaking the rules, while Miho argues that he deserves to become a runner. Nearly everyone agrees with Miho except Gally, who believes Thomas is still far too inexperienced. Their argument is interrupted by the sound of the box rising, even though it isn't supposed to arrive yet. When they open it, they find no supplies at all, only an unconscious girl. Thomas immediately recognizes her as the girl from his dreams. Newt discovers a note in her hand that reads, "She's the last one. Ever." Moments later, the girl suddenly wakes up, calls Thomas by name, and immediately falls unconscious again. After she's taken to the homestead, Thomas tells the others they've proven it's possible to survive inside the maze, so he wants to go back in and search for answers. Miho convinces 3 other runners to join them, and the group heads into the maze. They find the dead griever wedged between the walls. When Miho touches it, the creature twitches for a second, but it's only a reflex. The team cuts off one of the griever's mechanical legs and discovers a strange device inside that emits a beeping sound. They take it back to the glade. At the homestead, everyone carefully examines the device and notices the letters WCKD printed on it, the same letters that appear on the supplies delivered by the box. They conclude that whoever sent them to the glade also created the grievers. Thomas wants to continue searching the maze for more clues, while Gally argues that Thomas should be punished for repeatedly breaking the rules. Newt compromises by sentencing Thomas to spend one night in the pit before officially making him a runner the following day. Later, Miho takes Thomas to the room where he keeps every map he's ever drawn of the maze, along with a scale model of its layout. He explains that he's documented every change the maze has gone through over the years, yet he has never found an exit. Now that they have the mysterious device, they finally have a better chance. They also discover that the outer sections of the maze are numbered from 1 to 8. Every night, when the maze shifts, a different section opens in the same repeating order. Since the device taken from the griever is marked with the number 7, they conclude that the creatures come from section 7. Meanwhile, the girl wakes up and starts throwing anything she can find to keep everyone away. She finally calms down when she sees Thomas. He climbs up to her and finds her holding a knife. She says she can't remember anything except that her name is Teresa. The others tell her she kept whispering Thomas's name while she was unconscious, but she has no idea who he is. Thomas explains everything that's been happening, and in return, Teresa tells him that the only memory she still has is exactly the same one he keeps seeing in his dreams. She also reveals that she found 2 small vials filled with blue liquid in her pocket, both marked with the same 4 letters. Thomas realizes the initials stand for wicked because the woman in his dreams kept repeating, "Wicked is good." Thomas believes they should inject Albie with the blue serum. As soon as they try, Albie loses control and starts shouting things he shouldn't possibly know. The other boys restrain him while Teresa injects him with the serum, causing him to fall asleep almost instantly. Later, Gally locks Thomas in the pit for the night. Secretly, Chuck sneaks him some food and shows him a small wooden toy he carved by hand. Although Chuck can't remember his family, he still hopes he'll see them again one day so he can give them the toy. Thomas promises that he'll find a way to get everyone out of the glades so Chuck can make that dream come true. The following morning, Thomas and Miho enter the maze the moment the gates open. Following Miho's lead, they race through several corridors until they reach Section 7, even though it wasn't supposed to open for another week. There, they find Ben's clothes lying on the ground, proving that a griever dragged him there. Just then, the device begins emitting a strange signal. Thomas follows the sound, and it grows louder as they head in the right direction. Eventually, they discover an area Miho has never seen before. A long bridge stretches across a massive chasm toward a giant wall. When they reach the wall, the device activates a hidden door that reveals a tunnel on the other side, covered in the griever's slimy residue. Suddenly, a scanning light sweeps over them, and an alarm blares as the tunnel begins to seal shut. Thomas and Miho immediately sprint forward, dodging the constantly shifting walls inside Section 7. At one point, they end up on opposite sides of a moving wall, forcing Thomas to make a split-second leap to reunite with Miho. Just as they're about to escape, the ground suddenly splits apart, and part of the wall collapses. They keep running at full speed as the maze continues transforming around them, avoiding every deadly moving obstacle. In the end, they have only one option left. They crawl between 2 massive walls that are rapidly closing in and barely squeeze through at the last possible second before they are crushed. A short while later, Thomas and Miho return to the glade and tell everyone they've found a way out of the maze. Gally immediately objects, insisting it could be a trap, and the two begin arguing. Before the debate can continue, Teresa announces that Albie has regained consciousness. When everyone gathers around him, Albie tells them they can't stay there any longer because he remembers everything now. He reveals that Thomas was always the organization's favorite, and wonders why Thomas chose to come into the maze. Before he can explain further, everyone's attention is drawn to the maze when they realize the giant doors haven't closed like they always do. Instead, new gates begin opening. Thomas tries to come up with a plan, but there's no time. Grievers start pouring out of the maze. Everyone runs toward the forest looking for cover, but they hear the screams of boys being slaughtered by the monsters. Some of the survivors, including Gally, manage to hide inside the box and seal it shut. A boy trapped outside cries for help, but a griever hears him and kills him. Meanwhile, Thomas, Teresa, and several others hide in the gardens, but a griever bursts through the crops and grabs one of the boys. The group keeps running until they reunite with Albie and the remaining survivors, watching more gladers get dragged away and killed as they flee. When another griever blocks their path, Teresa throws a lantern at it, setting the creature on fire and buying everyone enough time to escape. Along the way, Albie collapses, forcing the group to stop and help him. Thomas stands in front of everyone with a weapon, preparing to face the approaching griever. Just then, the keepers surround the monster and attack it with spears, giving the rest of the group enough time to reach the largest hut and barricade themselves inside. The griever pounds against the door without success, so it climbs onto the roof and tears part of it apart to snatch another boy. Then one of its mechanical arms reaches through the wall and grabs Chuck. Everyone desperately pulls on their friend, trying to save him. Just as the creature prepares to sting Chuck, Albie charges forward and smashes the griever's mechanical arm, freeing Chuck at the cost of his own life. Moments later, the griever returns and grabs Albie. Before he's dragged away, Albie tells Thomas to get everyone out of the glade. Once everything goes quiet, The survivors leave the hut and realize the only people left alive are those who hid inside the cabin and those who escaped in the box. Gally blames Thomas for everything that happened. Desperate for answers, Thomas injects himself with Griever venom and willingly undergoes the changing. During the transformation, Thomas sees the laboratory once again. He watches Teresa and several other children taking part in experiments, while the mysterious woman repeats the words, "Wicked is good." When Thomas wakes up, he finds himself in the pit with Teresa, who saved him by using the second vial of the blue serum. Newt, Miho, and Chuck visit him and explain that Gally has convinced most of the remaining Gladers that everything is Thomas's fault. To everyone's surprise, Albie had also agreed with Gally before he died. Through the memories Thomas recovered, he learns the truth. When they were children, Wicked conducted experiments on all of them before sending them into the maze one by one. Thomas and Teresa had actually worked for Wicked and witnessed the entire project. The glade and the maze were never meant to be a prison. They were a test designed to identify the people most capable of surviving. Thomas and his small group decide to finish what they started. Soon afterward, Thomas and Teresa confront Gally, who is crossing names off the memorial wall. Gally wants to throw both of them into the maze, but several boys hesitate because they believe Thomas truly knows the way out. Taking advantage of the distraction, Thomas knocks down the guards holding him, while Miho keeps Gally under control by threatening him with a weapon. Thomas announces that he and his team are heading into the maze and that anyone who wants to join them is welcome. Gally calls them crazy, but nearly half of the remaining Gladers choose to follow Thomas. After another long run through the maze, the group reaches Section 7, where a Griever is guarding the tunnel. The boys rush beneath the bridge and attack the monster with spears and blades while it fights back using its mechanical limbs, even knocking one of the boys off the bridge. During the battle, Teresa strikes one of the Griever's mechanical legs and accidentally knocks loose the electronic device inside it, sending it flying. Chuck runs to retrieve it but ends up at the edge of the bridge, where he sees another Griever climbing toward him. Fortunately, Teresa pulls him back just before he falls. After an intense struggle, the group finally pushes the Griever into the abyss. But almost immediately, two more Grievers appear on the bridge. While the others keep the monsters occupied, Chuck and Teresa carry the device to the hidden door and activate it, revealing the tunnel. Inside, they find another door that requires an 8-digit access code. Thomas realizes the code must be the sequence of the maze sections. Miho starts calling out the numbers, but before he can finish, a Griever jumps down on top of him. One of the boys sacrifices himself to distract the creature, allowing Miho to escape. As the others retreat into the tunnel, Miho finishes reciting the numerical sequence, and Teresa enters it to unlock the door. At that moment, the tunnel walls begin closing again. Thomas throws his spear at the pursuing Grievers to slow them down long enough for everyone to get through. On the other side, they discover a modern hallway with working electricity. They continue forward until they reach another door labeled Exit. Beyond it lies a laboratory filled with the bodies of scientists and security guards. In the main control room, they find computer systems connected to surveillance cameras, confirming that the scientists had been watching the glade the entire time. Thomas presses a playback button, and the woman from his dreams appears on the monitors. She introduces herself as Dr. Ava Page, Director of Wicked, which stands for World in Catastrophe, Kill Zone Experiment Department. Dr. Ava explains that if they're watching this message, it means they've successfully completed the maze trials. She reveals that years earlier, powerful solar flares scorched the Earth, killing billions through fire and famine. Soon afterward, a deadly virus known as the flare spread across the world, attacking the brain and driving people violently insane. Scientists believed there was no cure until a new generation of children was born with natural immunity. Wicked began experimenting on these immune children, placing them in brutal environments like the maze to study their brain activity under extreme stress in hopes of finding a cure. Because many people opposed these methods, the entire project was kept secret. The recording ends with Dr. Ava apparently taking her own life. As the group struggles to process the shocking truth, another door suddenly opens, and Gally appears. Teresa immediately notices that he has been stung by a Griever. Gally declares that there is no freedom outside the maze and opens fire. At the same moment, Miho throws his spear, killing Gally. Tragically, one of Gally's stray bullets strikes Chuck. As he lies dying, Chuck gives Thomas the small wooden toy he carved himself, thanks him for everything, and passes away in his arms. While the group mourns their friend, a team of armed rescuers arrives and escorts them out of the laboratory, where a helicopter is waiting to evacuate them. In the final moments, it is revealed that Dr. Ava Page is actually still alive. She calmly tells her colleagues that Thomas has taken the bait, and that Phase 2 is ready to begin. And that's how the movie ends. Thanks for watching. Don't forget that your opinion matters, so be sure to leave a comment below and subscribe to the channel.